So we've now been at the end of January. Over the course of the last month there have been 2 rounds of FA Cup action involving Premier League and Championship clubs, round 3 and round 4. And what those 2 rounds allow are the potential for replays. And this has been the cause of a bit of a debate over the last few weeks in particular. Some big names getting involved. Effectively the people that are all for replays being scrapped are people who have worked, played or support Premier League or Championship clubs, and people who are against replays being scrapped are everyone else. The people from the lower leagues who don't get the same voice as the people in the Premier League. So this video we're going to be looking at from a lower league and non-league perspective, should replays be scrapped in the FA Cup? It's coming up right after this.
Before we start this video, this is sponsored by our channel sponsors, One Football, who've been great working with us over the last few months. It's a great app that you can download on Apple and Android and allows you to stay up to date with lots of different scores, news, transfers, all sorts of different things from games live as well, finding out different information as you can see on the screen. There's a lot of different viral videos, and the news section allows you to keep up to date with lots of different information from a lot of different teams across the world. You can tailor notifications to be specific to different teams that you support or different types of news that you want to receive into your feed and into your notifications bar on your phone. It's an app that I do really recommend that you do download. If you haven't done already, the link to download it will be in the top line of the description.
So we're going to start off with the arguments of why potentially replays in the FA Cup should be scrapped. And the first point is that the Premier League teams just really aren't that interested in the FA Cup anymore. They see it as a hindrance, and the fact that there's extra games that could potentially be on top of the original round ties in terms of replays, that is a massive hindrance, and Premier League clubs just don't like that. They want to be able to play as few games as possible to keep their players as fit and ready for the Premier League action as they can, because the money that is on the line in the Premier League for Premier League clubs is so superior to that in the FA Cup. And that's effectively what football is now coming down to. Like it or not, it's a fact. Football now is so centred around money, especially at the top levels of the game. So financially it makes no sense for these top level teams to be playing their strongest teams in the FA Cup when they've got loads of other games they need to keep their players fit for. How does this relate to replays? Well, if you're a Premier League club and you know that you are going to definitely not have a replay and the game is going to be done on that night, then you might actually play a stronger team. It might end up being more of a spectacle because the teams know that they haven't got to prepare and keep players aside potentially for a potential replay, or know they have to play weakened teams for the replay. So they might actually play a stronger team, but will this actually make a difference? I'm not really too sure. But regardless, having less matches to play, particularly in January, which is one of the busiest times for Premier League clubs, this will be seen as a massive positive. Removing replays may see the Premier League clubs treat the competition with a bit more respect rather than a complete hindrance, because that is effectively what some clubs see it as. Currently, Jurgen Klopp has been pretty public about the fact that he really isn't bothered about the FA Cup. As a lot of you will have seen in round 4 of the FA Cup last weekend, Liverpool drew away at Shrewsbury 2-2. So that game's going to go to a replay. And Klopp said that I said to the boys already 2 weeks ago that we will have a winter break, which means we will not be there at the replay. The Premier League asked us to respect the winter break. That's what we do. If the FA doesn't respect that, then we cannot change it. We will not be there. So literally with your first team manager not being at an FA Cup 4th round replay, that kind of says it, and they're the top team in the country and arguably one of the top teams in the world at present. And to be honest, this competition is below them. Klopp attended the match at Shrewsbury, so if this replay wasn't happening, then maybe it wouldn't be seen as much of a hindrance, because he sees this replay as one that he just doesn't want to go to because of that winter break that he spoke about that the Premier League has implemented. Should the Premier League have implemented a winter break when there are potential replays in the FA Cup to be played? I'm not too sure. It's all a bit of politics and conflict there. The only reason that I can think that lower league teams might not want replays in the FA Cup is due to the travel distances. For example, if you're in the second qualifying round of the FA Cup where your prize money is quite low and you're Hereford, for example, and you have drawn Blythe Spartans away, they're a league rival, so it's not an exciting tie. It's nothing abnormal from what would happen in your league season. It's a very long distance, and especially if that goes to a replay, then you're going to have to travel all the way there. The other team will have to travel to you, and for a game that, you know, it's in such an early round of the competition, it makes sense that those two teams will decide, right, okay, none of us want a replay. But that is just one circumstance. Generally, most clubs in the lower leagues, if they're playing against a higher level opposition or in a later round of the FA Cup, they will want that replay for the financial gain. For example, if you're a team in League 1, League 2 or non-league, and you draw a big Premier League team away from home, you're going to want to go and play that game, aren't you, away from home? If it goes to a replay, then you can bring them back to your place, and that will be a great occasion for the fans as well. The most lucrative tie financially would be the one away at the Premier League club, because there's a big crowd and the gate receipts have to be split. The game also might be on TV. If you somehow go and win the game, then you'll have good prize money as well. So that replay could be really, really important for the progression of your club. For example, in 2017, it was estimated that Plymouth Argyle earned around £1 million from 2 televised ties against Liverpool, taking 9,000 fans to Anfield for a goalless first game, only narrowly losing the second. Additionally, former England and Liverpool striker Michael Owen said that, "I can't believe this debate regarding cup replays. They are vital for the existence of this country's smaller clubs. Why we continue to squeeze the life out of these clubs? If teams think there are too many games for certain players, rotate your squad. Simple." And this comes back to what I was mentioning earlier about football now being all about money, really. This comes down to the lower levels, as the clubs in the lower levels will get more money from the FA Cup than they will from their league. So the clubs really want to do well in their FA Cup campaign. If you go back to the example of Shrewsbury last weekend, if they weren't able to take that game to Anfield, there definitely would not have been a pitch invasion at the end of that game with the fans celebrating like they'd won the tie, whereas in fact they just got it to a replay and got the opportunity to go to Anfield. That is going to be so lucrative for them as a club. They were to invest that in their facilities, as their manager Sam Ricketts said they would do. If that replay didn't happen and the game just ended in Shrewsbury, then they wouldn't have made as much money as they are going to. And regardless of the money, particularly for the fans, the opportunity now to host Liverpool at their home ground and then travel away to Liverpool as well, those are amazing memories for the fans. A lot of the time, if you ask any lower league football fan from League 1 or below for their top 3 favourite moments from supporting their club, I guarantee that about 90% of people will include at least one FA Cup memory in there. The FA Cup is so important for lower league clubs because it gives you that giant killing opportunity, that opportunity to go to a ground at the top level of the game potentially. And with those top 3 memories that people will have, a lot of those memories will come from replays. But is there a compromise that can be had with this? Is there a solution that we can find? In my opinion, the best way to look at this and approach the situation would be to do the same as what happens in the FA Trophy currently. That is where, if the two clubs decide they don't want a replay and they want the game to be finished on the day of the original date, then they can do so. But both teams have to agree to that. In the FA Cup, most likely, if you've got a Premier League team facing against another Premier League team in January in round 3 or round 4, most likely they'll probably say, do you know what, let's just get it on the day. The majority of ties will remain as replays because in the FA Trophy, there aren't many games that end up being finished on the day. For some reason, a lot of clubs would rather the tie go to replay regardless of the circumstances, which is a bit bizarre. As I mentioned earlier, travel distance might come into it as well, but I think just having that option there, as it's an option in the FA Trophy, why not put that as an option in the FA Cup? With, for example, Liverpool v Shrewsbury, Shrewsbury are always going to want to take that to a replay and Liverpool won't. So because one of the teams want it to go to a replay, the replay will happen, so it doesn't stop that situation. Gary Lineker, who's obviously a Premier League person, he is for the scrapping of FA Cup replays, and he said that if it was down to him, he'd do away with League Cup. He'd start the FA Cup earlier, not just after Christmas when everyone is knackered. Qualification can be earlier or more frequent. Ditch replays, do 90 minutes and then pens, but give the lower league side the chance of playing home or away. Now, while in theory, the latter part of that, of giving the teams the opportunity in the lower leagues, whether they want to play at home or away, I don't particularly like that as an idea personally, because although financially that gives the teams the possibility of earning a lot of money, it removes part of the magic of the competition. Now, you can argue that the magic of the FA Cup has now pretty much gone. There are not as many giant killings as there used to be, but if you're giving lower league sides the opportunity to play at home or away, in my opinion, that creates a bias towards those clubs, because other clubs, for example, if you're playing against a team that is in the same league as you, you probably won't be able to have that opportunity to choose where you want to play home or away. But yeah, what do you guys think of this? Do you think replays in the FA Cup should be scrapped? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, remember to hit the like button and click subscribe as well, to update with lots of different information and videos and debate videos like this from non-league football. And yeah, I hope to see you in the next video, and thanks for watching.